Hi, I'm Monique Mulligan and I'm coming to you from Western Australia. I'm about to read to you a chapter from my upcoming novel Wildflower, which is due out on International Women's Day. That's March the 8th. Now you won't find it in all the major bookshops because it's published by a small press, by Pilyara Press, but you will find it online. So go to places like Booktopia, Depository, and you'll find it there. It's up for pre-order now, easy to find. I would love to see some pre-orders coming in for this book. What can I tell you about it quickly? Well, I can tell you that it's set in 1979 and 1999. I'm not sure if that makes it historical fiction, although I was born in the 70s and I'm celebrating a milestone birthday this weekend. No spoilers, but I can tell you that, I'm starting to feel a little bit historical, especially in some of the bones. But they do say that things get better as they age, right? So I'm going to go with that. Anyway, Wildflower is a book about friendship. It's a book about women, empowering women. There's lightness and there's dark. There are those themes of wondering when it's time to speak up, about a time when it was none of your business. It'll take you back to those times and really make you think about those kind of things. Anyway, I'm going to read to you that first chapter now. August 1999. I left him suddenly, but I imagined that leaving moment for years, in my heart and head, in my dreams and my reality. A secretive escape in the dark of night, perhaps, or dramatic showdown, or maybe a carefully planned piece-by-piece move. In the end, it took 3 little words from a concerned policewoman to get me over the line. 3 little words I needed, wanted, desperately to hear. You deserve better. Later, I scrawled the words on a sticky note and slid the yellow square into my purse. A fake it till I make it daily reminder. Maybe one day I won't have to fake it. He was not my first, but I thought he would be my last. He moulded me like clay and glazed me with love and affection. He broke me into pieces and glued me back, together with apologies and flowers. You're never the same once you've been broken. There are always pieces missing, even if they're invisible. Tiny pieces of me. Where did they go? I had left him before, twice, maybe 3 times. I always went back. This time was different. There are only so many times you can be burnt, and by now my heart was ashes. He couldn't have put me back together even if I'd wanted him to. When you leave someone, the ending is only the beginning. The morning after it happened, I threw random clothes into a duffel bag and walked out of our rental house for good. Britney Spears was on the car radio singing Baby One More Time, her lonely desperation almost driving me back to the front door, almost killing me. I avoided looking in the rearview mirror. Don't look back, don't go back for anything, I told myself. The night before, as he was handcuffed and led away, the policewoman pressed a business card into my clammy palm. The only way to save your life is to lose the one you have, she said, to focus on what lies ahead, not on who and what is left behind. Easy to say, I thought, as my former life faded from sight. Hard to start over with a bag of mismatched clothes, an unreliable car with a cracked windscreen, and a name and address scribbled on the back of a business card. But not impossible. My destination was 3 suburbs away. Not far enough to relax. Close enough for him to find me if he knew where to look. But if there's a room available, you take it, and I had nowhere else to go. I wound through unfamiliar streets, listening to Shania Twain, Pearl Jam and Savage Garden sing about love's wounds, feeling as though my insides would erupt in a hot, sour mess like the hailstorm that lashed Sydney while he lashed out at me. The SES were out and about, securing roofs and windows, clearing leaves and branches scattered around the streets. Funny how the cleanup lasts longer than the storm itself. When I reached the address, I wasn't sure it was the right place. There was no sign, nothing that made it stand out, the kind of place you wouldn't notice because it blended in with every other house on the street. An ordinary red brick house with a well-kept lawn and old rose bushes out the front. But it was the right place according to the business card. Bryan Adams and Mel C wailed, "When you're gone," as I turned into the driveway. Reminders of the storm were everywhere. I moved a fallen branch and drove through a puddle as wide as the driveway to reach the hidden car park. 3 other cars were parked there. 2 were blanketed with drowned blossoms from spreading golden wattles separating the car park from a large backyard. The wind must have whipped those trees into a frenzy to cause so much flower drop. but still they hung heavy with drooping sprays of bright yellow. I squeezed my eyes shut. I can't stand wattle flowers. It's hard to avoid wattles when you live in Sydney. They're everywhere. When they're not flowering, you can zone them out, pretend they're just another tree. But when they're in bloom, you can't miss them. And the smell, that sweet, woody, honey fragrance, it makes me sick. I leaned towards my car hanging tree air freshener and filled my lungs with the fake pine scent he always hated. Could I hold my breath all the way from the car park to the door? Or should I take it as a sign and get the hell away from here? My fingers drummed the steering wheel as I weighed up my options. I didn't want to be here. I couldn't go back there. My eyes darted back and forth. Dashboard, house, cars, wattles. Golden balls of sunshine, that's what we used to call wattle flowers at school. Every year on Wattle Day, the 1st of August in the 70s, we'd plant baby wattle trees in the school grounds and decorate the classroom with flowers made up from scrunched up yellow crepe paper. One year we made golden wattle pom-poms and draped them on twigs we collected from the bushland behind the school. We'd colour in the coat of arms and get told off if we used the wrong colour for our national flower. We'd learn about how the wood, pollen and sap was used by Aboriginals for food, medicine, glues, dyes, even weapons. I reckon it's fascinating how trees and flowers can be used for so many things. I went to an aromatherapy party once and the consultant said wattle oil had properties that helped relieve stress and depression. Does the bloody opposite for me, I said. Stresses me out like you wouldn't believe. And the pollen gives me hay fever. I don't care what the allergy experts say. That aromatherapy woman thought I was a pain in the ass for not believing her flower essence stuff. I don't blame her. I was a bitch that night. I don't know how long I sat in that car park behind an ordinary red brick house, wondering how on earth a woman's refuge surrounded by wattles would give me the fresh start I needed. But finally I forced myself from the car, blocking my nose to keep the pollen out, flinching when I stepped on a wattle twig, flashing back to a sudden, hard slap on the cheek. You wouldn't think that seeing and smelling those wattles and hearing a twig snap could take me back to an endless simmering summer 20 years earlier, to a time when my childhood lost its innocence. But that summer is forever graffitied on my mind. Some things can never be undone. You learn from them if you can, and if you can't, you do what you can to get by. Do your best to focus on now, not on what was or what could have been. That's what I was doing when I pressed the intercom on the safety gate and announced myself in a shaking voice. Pushing away the past to reclaim my life, whatever my life was. Telling myself to be strong when I'd never felt weaker. The front door opened and 2 women approached the gate, one in her 60s, one about my age. "Hello," the older woman said to me as she unlocked the gate. "I'm Pat." "Bye," she said to the younger woman. "Thanks for coming." "See you next time," the one my age said to Pat, smiling politely at me as she squeezed past. Our eyes met. Someone gasped. Her, me, maybe both of us, I still don't know. But I do know this. I was staring into a face I'd spent the last 20 years trying to forget. And that's the first chapter of Wildflower for you. The next chapter takes you straight back to 1979, so you'll get that nostalgic hit pretty fast. But I hope that it's whetted your appetite for the story, and if you have any questions, I'd love to hear them.